Welcome back to my tutorial series on running Cyberpunk Red in Foundry Virtual Tabletop. I'm Prometheus, and in this video we'll be diving deeper into the Foundry environment, exploring the various tabs, tools, and the play environment itself to help you get the most out of your sessions. Do note that I've enabled a pair of content modules to give me some tools to demonstrate with. These modules will be covered in the final video in the series, so you can have a starting set of content for yourself just like this. Let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is cover the tabs. This is where most of the information in Foundry is contained. We'll start by taking a quick look at each one. First and most preeminent is chat messages. This is where all game messages, roles, and player interactions should appear, unless you're, of course, using Discord or some other platform to facilitate, interaction. You can type commands, roll dice, and see the results here. Of note, there are 4 role types. Public role shows the roll's results to everyone, along with who rolled it. Private GM role only shows the results to the GM and the person rolling the dice. Blind GM role shows the player that dice have been rolled, but only the GM can actually see the result. And self-roll only sends the result to you. No one else will be able to know that you made the roll. Over in the Combat Encounters tab, this is what's used to manage combat. You can add and remove tokens from the initiative tracker directly from the map or the game field. I'm going to drag a token in real quick just to demonstrate, and flip back to the Combat Encounters tab. To add a token, you right-click it, and select the Cross Swords and Shield, and that will have it appear in the initiative tracker. To remove it, right-click the token again, and select the same option. The Scenes tab holds all of your play environments, which can be viewed through a left-click or a right-click. Left-click, well, actually the left-click opens the settings. So strike that. In any case, if you right-click, you will have the option, let's grab that, to view the scene, or activate it. Activating a scene immediately moves all of the current players in the game over to that scene, along with starting certain things, like you can hear now. Associated with the scene, I have some ambience set up for the Afterlife lobby scene. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. We'll go into more detail on scenes in the next few minutes, but you can add and remove them from the ribbon up here for easy navigation by checking the Show in Navigation box, and this allows you to change who can see it while it's in navigation. Moving along to the Actors. The Actors tab holds all of your characters, NPCs, and inventories. Here you can manage mooks, black ice, player characters, and spare items. Each of these has its own type of sheet, which I'll let you explore on your own. Suffice to say that most NPCs will use the mook sheet, while all of your player characters will use the character sheet. So here's the character sheet. It has a full display, and the mook sheet has been much more stripped down. You can determine the type of sheet used when creating the actor through the dropdown. You can also change it through the sheet settings. The Items tab, that's journals. The Items tab contains various types of items that you can use in your game. This includes weapons, armor, and general gear. Also cyberware. Anything that goes into your player's inventories is going to be going into them through the Items tab. The Journals tab is used for taking notes during the game. Some modules use journals to record information about the module or its contents, and as such they've been included for review. This includes the content modules that we'll be covering later, the journals of which you can see right here. The Rollable Tables tab lets you create configurable tables that can be rolled on via commands or macros, making automated tasks much easier. For example, one module we'll go over later has a fully automated set of night market tables that have, that make that process much easier. So if I open one here and hit roll, it includes all of the core items and everything in all of the DLC. We'll see that it appears that this night market, there is a pop-up grenade launcher and super chrome plating on display for sale. much easier than going and consulting the core rulebook tables. However, it's worth noting that these tables are separate from the core rule tables. We are not reproducing any content. The card stacks are a Foundry native functionality. You can use them to manage decks of cards. Cyberpunk's Red core systems don't typically use this feature, however, so I won't be covering it. The Sounds tab is used to manage both ambient noise playlists and soundtracks to enhance your game's atmosphere, like you heard earlier. And the Compendiums tab is used to store bulk amounts of information for easy access. This includes all of the weapons, armor, items, everything else that's included with the Red core system, along with any new content provided by modules. You can import compendiums for later use, which is how I got all of these, how I got these actors and these scenes. Do that by right-clicking the compendium that you want and selecting Import All Content. Next, we're going to look at the tools on the left side of the screen. These tools help you interact with the game environment. Note that if something isn't working right, if you're unable to select something or unable to move something on the game board, check which tool you have selected first, as each one only selects what it's been designed to select. You cannot select a tile with the token select tool or vice versa, for example. Speaking of, the token select tool is the most commonly used tool. It's self-explanatory. It allows you to select and move tokens on the map. The measurement tools help you measure distances and areas on the map, essential for planning movements and actions, along with things like AoE effects from weapons. Do note that for measuring distance from a character, that can be done very easily, or anywhere else on the scene, from, I believe, any tool. Nope, maybe it's just the select tokens. Looks like it's just the select tokens. Hold Control, or, I suppose, use this measure distance tool. Hold Control, and it will allow you to measure distance. Clicking while doing this creates waypoints. It's also how you properly move your tokens, which we'll go over in a bit. Tile controls allow you to add, move, and manage tiles in your scenes. Tiles are like decals that you can place in the environment, allowing you configurable extra detail at just a few clicks. Drawing, similar to tile, allows you to draw shapes, lines, and text on the map for visual aids and annotations. The Walls tool, as you can see here, allows you to draw walls, which control the vision of tokens, blocking line of sight and movement. You can add, remove, and edit walls to help shape your environment. Lights are used by GMs to provide decorative lighting in scenes, enhancing the visual experience. After placement, they're configured from within the scene, and they can also be turned on and off by right-clicking. Ambient sounds are configured in much the same way as lights, allowing you to have sounds play according to proximity by a token, adding atmosphere with background noises and music. And the Journal Notes tab allows you to insert journals that are relevant to the scene as items in the environment, which can be interacted with through other players. Lastly, we're going to go into scene details for a little bit. Right-click a scene to configure it, and this will open up a wide array of options. The background and dimensions are set here, along with quite a few other things. The grid, spacing and size, the overall appearance. You set the background picture, which is what you're seeing here in the background image tab here. The global illumination, or lighting, is set here. Do note that if you do not have, it's generally a good idea to keep the global illumination box checked. This means that even if there is not a lighting source illuminating it, a token that does not have a wall in the way can still see the area. And if you don't want tokens to be, if you want players to be able to see the entire scene, you can go ahead and uncheck the token vision box. This also allows you to adjust fog of war and stuff. There's a lot here, obviously, which we're not going to be covering in too much depth, so we're going to move on. Next, we're going to cover setting up characters. This is of interest to players as well as GMs. We've already covered the basics of how to set up and award ownership of a character in the previous video. Now we'll go a bit more in depth on the functionality of the character sheet. The first thing you might want to do is change a character's name. To change a character's name and appearance, open the character sheet. You can edit the name in the sheet's header. Well, I suppose the header would be up here, but in the title field. We're just going to go ahead and get rid of this character example field. To change the appearance, select the avatar and upload a new picture to your file directory. I have a shortcut imposed already to root. Also access it by going up here. Generally speaking, you're going to want to keep your files divided by world, unless you have a different means of file storage in mind. I've already uploaded a picture for Tommy. Do note that the token settings need to be updated independently of the character sheet. You can do so by accessing the token settings. Most of these options are relatively self-explanatory, and you're welcome to play around with them. So I'm just going to go over two. First, we're going to remove that character example from his name. It does note that this can be completely separate from the name that's here. I'm going to change it so that the name is always visible when hovered by anyone, and I'm going to make sure that the link actor data box is checked. The link actor data box determines if the token creates its own instance of the actor sheet when it's produced. And because that may not make any sense, basically, if you want the changes on the token to affect the master sheet, then you check this box. If you don't, then you keep it unchecked. So for a player character where you are not going to be creating duplicates of the player character, everything that happens to the token should also happen on the sheet. You can keep this box checked. For a mook, where the individual mooks will be separate entities from one another despite all having basically the same copied character sheet, you can uncheck this box, and the individual mooks will have unique sheets accessed through their tokens. Over in the Appearance tab, we can change the appearance of the token here. I'm just going to keep it as default for now, but this is where you change the token along with its dimensions. The other thing I will note here is the Randomize Wildcard Images button. If you have a mook that you want to have multiple images, you can have those images be randomly selected from by replacing the file path of the name of the file in a folder which contains the images you want to draw from with an asterisk, and then checking the Randomize Wildcard Images box. This will tell the system that each time a token is created to draw a random token from this folder. We're going to go ahead and uncheck that for now. Actually, we can just close this because I'm not making any changes. Do note that you do have to update your token down here if you want to do that. So let's repeat my work from earlier, hit Update Token. Let's talk a little bit about the character sheet. In the sheet, you'll see 4 tabs at the top and 3 at the bottom. These should be basically familiar to anyone who's seen the character sheet in another form before. The Skills tab contains the player's skills. Defaults are already filled in. The remainder can be filled out by players or GMs, and this can be searched from the box on the lower left. Very useful. The Gear tab contains the gear that's owned by the character. It can be dropped in from the Items tab or from a compendium which contains items. We'll go over how combat works in a bit, so for now I'm going to give Tommy a heavy pistol and some heavy pistol ammo, along with a bit of armor, all of which are from the red core items. So here's the ammo. Let's go heavy pistol. We're just going to drop in some basic. You'll note that it drops it in 10 at a time, just like it would if you were to purchase it. Let's go give him a heavy pistol. Go to weapons, heavy pistol, and some armor. Give him some Kevlar. Note that you can change the description and some of the settings of the items by clicking on them and clicking into them. So if you wanted to rename it, for example, you could do that from here. The Effects tab will track the effects that are applied to the character sheet, but you cannot make new effects at time of writing through the effects tab of the item that's on the sheet. You have to do it while the item is in the items tab. My understanding is that is a bug that will be fixed later. The Cyber tab shows what cyberware is installed on the character. Cyberware is first dropped into the Gear tab and then installed from there. It automatically calculates humanity loss according to the interface. Lastly, the Effects tab, as mentioned, shows what's affecting your character's rolls alongside other buffs or nerfs. Some items that affect this tabs, like drugs or cyberware, when consumed or installed, and others, like the agent, add modifiers just by being in the inventory. At the bottom is the Roll tab. Rolls are unique assets which can be found in the Cyberpunk Red Core compendiums. Let's see if we can find it here. There we go. Rolls. Tommy, that's looking like a rocker boy to me, so we're going to go ahead and drop him in. It allows for modest customization for some roles, although for others it's just an easy way to track. You'll note that it says rocker boy here now, and there are 4 ranks in it, as would be the default. The Fight tab controls combat, and we're going to come back to it. And lastly, the life path is where your character's biography is stored, as well as any player notes about the character. You will find this useful, especially if you're coming from pen and paper, that everyone can see what's going on with everyone else's biography at a glance, and that players can easily store and reference their biography data. And last, on the website, you will notice that there is an IP, a reputation, and a Eurobucks field. Each has a ledger, which can be filled out by any GM or owner. I recommend that you encourage your players to keep an accurate and up-to-date ledger of all 3 of these things at all times. Doing so ensures that if you need to roll something back, you can, and that you always know the source of your players' different things. Next, we'll cover how to move a character token. I'm going to go ahead and drag Tommy onto the scene here. There are 3-ish ways to move a character token. The first, you can use WASD. The second, you can use arrow keys. The third, you can drag and drop, though in all cases, the players will not be able to drag and drop or WASD through walls or closed doors. And the fourth is measured movement. Only one of these ways is correct. If you use any of the first 3 methods as a player, those being the directional, inputs, or drag and drop, you'll likely struggle with latency problems, slowing the game down considerably. Neither is that movement measured, making it less accurate. Instead, after selecting a character token, hold Control and left-click and drag out from your token. While continuing to hold Control, left-click again to set movement waypoints with the measuring tool. Once you have all of your movement waypoints set and your cursor is hovering over where you intend the final destination to be, you can release Control and press space, and your token will move along the movement track. Now we're going to talk about combat. In order to do that, we'll need to equip Tommy with his gear. We've already given him a pistol, some ammo, and a bit of armor, so we're just going to go into his character sheet here under the Gear tab and make sure that it is properly equipped and loaded, etc., etc. There is a dedicated button for changing this. Owned to carry. Just because it's carry doesn't mean he has it on. We're going to put it on. Look at that. He's got Kevlar on. And a helmet. The same thing for the heavy pistol applies. Owned. Carry, just because it's carried doesn't mean it's handy. Equipped, you'll note that it's unloaded. We need to put the bullets into it. The best way to do that is hit the reload button here. It'll confirm which ammo type you want. You can change it through the drop-down, hit load. If you need to switch the ammo type and you have multiple ammo types in your inventory, you can hit change ammo here and it'll bring up the same option as well as the option to unload the weapon. Do note that some attacks, like unarmed blows and thrown weapons, have unconventional rolls and can be found as unique gear items in the Red Core Compendium for easier automation, the same way I found the weapons. Now that Tommy is locked and loaded, let's talk about making rolls and conducting combat. That's what you'll be doing for most of your time in Red, so here's how you can do it. Rolls are very simple. They can either be made through the chat tab via commands, such as /r space 1d6 to roll 1d6. You'll note that the result there pops up. or by selecting a role in the character sheet. Click on the relevant skill or ability to open the dialog. Confirm that the modifiers are all correct. Hit confirm on the roll, and it will automatically roll the die and add the modifiers. Next, we're going to put Tommy and his civilian foe into combat real quick, just to show how it's done. So we're going to, again, right-click each token, select the Add to Initiative button, come on over to the Initiative tab. We note that they're both in here. We're going to roll initiative for both, rather than clicking these individual buttons. We're going to hit Roll All up here. You'll note that Tommy rolled a 21, and the civilian rolled a miserable 7. I do believe that was a crit. You'll note that crit successes and fails are already automated in the system. This is something that you can turn off during the roll dialog box for an individual roll as it appears. So if you want to disable crit fails, like for a solo's combat awareness skill, for example, the solo can disable that in the dialog box when he makes the attack. Now that we're ready for combat, we do need to begin the round. We'll go ahead and do that. You'll note that Tommy is indicated as the first person, and although you can't see it because I am the GM, as you swap to turns, it will bump the player viewpoints over to whoever's turn it is as their turn comes up. The first thing that Tommy will need to do in order to fire his pistol at this civilian is select a target. You can do that two ways. First, by pressing T, or by right-clicking the token and selecting the bullseye. This will tell the gun that he fires which token it is being fired at. Now we're going to open his character sheet. We're going to select the fist to make the attack roll. Note that the modifiers are correct. It will add his reflex. It will add his handgun skill, which is currently 0. He has 6 luck. We're going to put all 6 into it to guarantee a hit. You'll note that the luck does not automatically deduct, so you'll need to do that yourself. And even with 6 luck, he has rolled a crit fail, and a terrible one at that. But despite that, we're going to pretend that he hit for purposes of demonstration. You'll note that it does not say whether or not he's hit or missed, although there are DV range tables in the Red system. The automation for outputting whether a hit or miss has occurred is actually currently being handled through a separate module, which we'll go over in the next video. So you'll need to check the result yourself. For now, we're just going to pretend that that hit no matter what. And we're going to roll damage. The two ways to roll damage are by selecting the blood drop here, or here on the weapons tab. You'll note that it also deducted an ammo for the shot. And it rolled damage. There are two ways to apply damage as the GM. First, you can select this lightning bolt here. This will apply the damage to the currently selected token, not the targeted one. Just anything that you have selected will receive that damage, useful for AoEs or other such things. And second, you can apply it specifically to the token that the gun was fired at when the damage was rolled. There you go. The civilian has taken 10 damage. Do note that when a token takes damage, any body armor that is relevant will ablate if necessary automatically, and its current SP will be taken into consideration when the damage is dealt. So if I instead select Tommy and hit this lightning bolt to apply the damage to him, because he's wearing Kevlar, he will only take 3 damage, and you'll note that the Kevlar has been reduced by 1. And that's it. That covers the basics of the Foundry virtual tabletop environment for Cyberpunk Red. Although there's still more setup to work to do in creating your own mooks, scenes, and characters, you now have the basic knowledge you need to make the system work as intended. In the next and final video, we'll dive deeper into advanced features and customization options, including tools for making maps and mooks, as well as my must-have modules for making my sessions pop. Thanks for watching.